Welcome to Gaga's Fiction. Today, we're back with part 2 of A Second Chance in a New World, Naruto in High School DD. Brace yourselves for more epic crossovers, let's jump right in. After leaving the mental space, Naruto felt tired. The day had gone by quickly, and he couldn't understand how it had gone by so fast. Nevertheless, he wanted to go to sleep. He closed his eyes, waiting to fall asleep. Inside Naruto's dream. Naruto was walking through the village of Konoha. He wasn't sure why he was there because he was supposed to be in the dorm room he was given. But he couldn't deny that he missed the village a little. After all, they had recognized him as a hero for defeating Nagato, and people no longer looked at him with hatred or contempt. They saw him for who he really was, Naruto Uzumaki. He was glad about that. His efforts had paid off. If this was a dream, he would make the most of it and see Konoha one more time before moving on to the present. The first thing that came to his mind was to go to the Hokage monument and sit on the head of his father. When he was a child, he felt a strange connection with the Yondaime's head, even though he didn't know he was his father at the time. When he sat on the head and looked up, he could see the whole village. He liked to watch it during the sunset. In those moments, the village looked beautiful and made him forget the loneliness he had felt as a child. He could spend hours just gazing at the village. "Isn't it beautiful?" a voice asked, a voice he didn't expect to hear again. So he turned to see the first Hokage of the village, Hashirama Senju. He wondered why he was in his dream, but he went along with it. After all, it was just a dream. "Yes, I like to see the village at this time of day," he replied calmly. Hashirama stood beside Naruto, both of them looking down at the village. The village they had built together with his best friend, Madara Uchiha. At first, he had been reluctant to do it, as it seemed like he had forgotten his dream of creating the village over time. Hashirama had approached him directly because he wanted to end the clan wars and because the rest of the Uchiha clan wanted him to accept. Reluctantly, he gave the idea of creating the village a chance, even though he didn't want to. It took them time, but with the combined efforts of the Senju and Uchiha, they had done it. They had realized their childhood dream. There didn't need to be a war between them anymore, and everything seemed to be going well. But he never expected that Madara would be against him becoming Hokage. Somehow, he thought that Madara wanted to oppress the Uchiha. Madara tried to gather support to remove him from leadership, but he was met with rejection. He felt betrayed and left Konoha without him knowing his whereabouts. However, he returned to fight with the intent to kill him. They chose a location for their battle that would be recorded in history books, and that place would later be known as the Valley of the End. He thought he had killed him, but apparently, he hadn't. He didn't know how he had survived. He ended up being the cause of the Fourth Great Ninja War. It was the worst war he had ever witnessed, even if all the villages had joined forces to fight against the technique his brother had created called Edo Tensei. He had told him it was a bad idea to use that jutsu, but he didn't listen. However, he wasn't the cause of as many deaths as the Jubi. It was much worse than the Kyubi. But it was in that war that he discovered a boy with a strong will of fire burning within him. His name was Naruto Uzumaki. For some reason, he felt a small connection when he saw him. He didn't understand why, but when the war had reached a point where they couldn't help anymore, the sage of the Six Paths told them the story. It was at that moment that he understood the small connection with the blonde boy. He supposed that they were both reincarnations of one of the sage's sons. They were almost like the same person. He thought maybe the boy could use Makuten. But when he saw Naruto fight before, he realized he couldn't. He thought he might give him a set of Makuten Jutsu scrolls, but unfortunately, it didn't work out. It was clear that Naruto didn't need them, he knew how to fight with what he had. After the Edo Tensei ended, he thought he would never see him again. Although they hadn't talked or seen each other much, he somehow liked the boy. So when the sage told him he could speak with him once more, he agreed to see him. Maybe because he reminded him of himself, and even though he couldn't teach him Makuten, he could share his experiences as a shinobi to help him in the future. And now, he was standing in front of him, both of them looking at the village of Konoha. Hashirama decided to speak again. "Hey, Naruto, it's good to see you again, even if it's not through ordinary means." Naruto was puzzled by what he meant by seeing him again. After all, this was a dream, so why would he say that? To clear his doubts, Naruto asked, "Seeing me again? But this is just a dream, right?" "In a way, you're right. Is it a dream?" "Yes, it is. But, thanks to the Sage of the Six Paths, I can talk to you once more." Upon hearing that, Naruto was surprised. The old sage had sent him to Hashirama, and he didn't tell him anything? What other hidden things were there on this journey that kept surprising him? I don't understand why you're here," Naruto said. Well, I came to teach you Makuten, but it seems you can't use it. I thought that being a reincarnation of the same person, you could use it, but I was wrong. So I thought that since I can't give you Makuten, I could at least give you my ninja experiences. Although you won't be able to do everything I did right away, at least you'll know what to strive for if you attempt something useful in the experiences I'll share with you. Naruto was a bit saddened that he couldn't use Makuten, but at least he could become a better ninja with the experiences of the ninja known as the Shinobi no Kami. He wondered if Kurama could hear this, but he didn't hear anything from Kurama throughout the conversation. So, you're going to give me your experiences as a shinobi? Did I do something to deserve such a gift? Naruto asked, his doubts showing. He would appreciate such a gift, but he didn't understand why Hashirama would give it to him. Hashirama scratched his head in response to the question. It was true, he didn't have a solid reason to give Naruto these experiences. He simply felt a liking for the boy, and perhaps, as reincarnations, they should help each other to some extent. It reminded him of the time when he was with his brothers. Honestly, when I saw the intensity of your will of fire, the way you could make your comrades follow you even when they couldn't go on or everything was against them, it caught my attention. Even if they can't go on or have everything against them, it caught my attention. I thought you'd make a great Hokage since you shouted to the world that you'd become one. I thought the village would be in good hands. But when I learned that both you and I were like the same person, I wanted to help you become a good Hokage so you could protect the village. But I was just an Edo Tensei. So I couldn't do much. I had resigned myself to the idea that the village would be in good hands when they chose you for the position, but as you can see, that didn't come true, Hashirama explained. Naruto lowered his head. He had wanted to become a Hokage, but things didn't work out for him. It was at a moment when the Sage of the Six Paths told me I could talk to you again. I thought that I could at least give you something to help you on this new journey you were embarking on. That's why I wanted to give you Makuten, but as you know, you can't use it. So the only other thing I had left was to give you my experiences gained throughout my life as a shinobi. So, Naruto, would you accept this gift I'm offering you? Hashirama asked. Naruto pondered for a moment. He could accept the gift, he saw no reason to refuse it. The experience would undoubtedly benefit him, especially considering he was a relatively young shinobi with limited knowledge of jutsu. So after thinking it over, Naruto decided, I'll accept the gift, Shadaime, with conviction. Hashirama had a small smile. He expected great things from Naruto, even if others didn't believe in him. So, he raised his right hand in a fist, and Naruto understood what he wanted to do. He raised his own fist to meet Hashirama's. As they did that, Hashirama began to gradually fade away. Naruto didn't understand why this was happening, and Hashirama reassured him, saying, Calm down, Naruto. This was going to happen, I'm literally being absorbed by you. It had to be this way so that you could have my memories. You won't have much trouble with this because we are almost the same person. I wish you luck on your new adventure, Naruto. I hope this helps you. After finishing his words, Hashirama had already disappeared, and Naruto thanked him, even though he couldn't hear it. It took only a few seconds for Naruto to develop a severe headache, much like when he dispelled several clones at once. In his last moments of consciousness, he had forgotten about the forest clones. Perhaps they had explored the area. If they had, he wouldn't need to ask where a quiet place to train might be. He drifted into unconsciousness with that final thought, outside of Naruto's dream dash. Morning had arrived, and we can see Sarafal and Sona getting up and heading to have breakfast. Both of them were in their sleepwear. Sarafal was wearing a cream-colored nightgown with a high collar and comfortable shorts. Sona had on a full-body blue dress. One of them would have to attend to their Mao duties, and the other might want to interrogate Naruto a bit more after breakfast. Sarafal, in particular, wanted to get to know Naruto better, but she couldn't do so until she finished her duties. Luckily for her, her responsibilities weren't as demanding as the other Maos, and she was happy about that. She wouldn't want to spend the whole day doing paperwork. The sisters were wondering where Naruto was since he hadn't shown up for breakfast. They thought it was logical that he might have gotten lost in the halls, so they decided to go to his room, hoping to find him there. When they reached the room, they knocked on the door to see if he was inside or wandering the halls, but no one answered. They decided to open the door to check, but he wasn't there. This puzzled them, but they heard a door opening, and both of them turned to look. They didn't expect Naruto to come out of the bathroom wearing pants but no shirt, drying his hair with a towel as he approached. Sarafal blushed at seeing him like that and didn't want him to think she was some kind of pervert who had entered his room with the intention of spying on him. Sona, on the other hand, remained composed when she saw Naruto coming out of the bathroom, or at least she tried to. She was a young girl, but she could admit that she found Naruto handsome. Naruto hadn't noticed the two intruders in the room at that moment, so he put on a black t-shirt that he wore under the orange jumpsuit he usually wore. This time, he had decided not to wear the full jumpsuit and opted for orange pants with a black t-shirt. Changing worlds also meant changing his outfit, so he would have to let go of so much orange, even though it was his favorite color. When he turned around, he noticed Sarafal and Sona. Naruto blushed upon seeing Sarafal's attire. She looked really good in that outfit, in his opinion. When he looked at Sona, he found her cute the way she was dressed, and if she had a slight smile on her face, she could be quite adorable. But he wouldn't say that out loud, he didn't want to be labeled as weird. The blonde found the courage to speak, even though he was nervous about the situation. "Good morning, Sarafal, Sona," he said with noticeable nervousness. Not knowing why they were there, he asked, "See, could you tell me what you're doing in the room?" He was more composed now. Sona spoke up, "We entered the room because we were looking for you. Since you weren't in the dining room, we thought you might have gotten lost in the halls." Sarafal nodded in agreement. "Oh, I see. I didn't think you'd be waiting for me. I had just come out of the shower and was about to head to the dining room," Naruto explained, sounding more at ease. Although he still had a slight blush, particularly due to how Sarafal was dressed. "I think we should go have breakfast," suggested Sona. Naruto and Sarafal agreed, and they headed to have their meal. After the somewhat tense breakfast, Sarafal had an important message to share with Sona, and she almost forgot to mention it. "Sona-chan, our parents are arriving today," she said with a smile. Sona was delighted, even though their parents had been on a short trip to Kyoto that lasted only 4 days. She had missed them. "Do you know what time they're arriving, Wani-sama?" she asked, her tone cheerful. It didn't quite match the slightly serious expression on Sona's face. "They should be arriving a bit before me, so it could be sometime before the afternoon. I think it would be a good idea to introduce them to Naruto, don't you think, Sona-chan?" Sona nodded, considering it a good idea. This way, they could build trust with him and allow him to spend more time with Naruto. To Sona, the blonde was a mystery she wanted to solve. While it was unusual to see a human in the underworld, one could let it slide if they knew how to use a magic circle to transport themselves here. However, in Naruto's case, he didn't know how he arrived. Sona was determined to solve this mystery, even if it took her a lifetime. As a demon, she had plenty of time at her disposal. While the sisters were discussing this, Naruto was contemplating whether it would be a good idea to ask for a place to train. However, this might lead to more questions about why he wanted to know. The other option was to dispel the 3 clones he had left in the forest the previous day. But this would be pointless if the clones had stayed in the same place. He was taking a risk, but he had no other choice. Before doing anything risky, he dispelled the remaining clones and found himself flooded with their memories. Flashback dash. POV clones. After our leader left, we stayed behind, thinking he would return. However, he didn't. He only told us to create a distraction, but he didn't dispel us afterward. We didn't believe he had forgotten about us. Perhaps he left us here to keep an eye on the fallen angel. He might want answers from the angel, and we could provide the information he needed. The 3 of us placed the fallen angel by the base of a tree. He appeared to be severely injured. We attempted to interrogate him as quickly as possible. "Hey, do you think he'll give us any answers?" "I'm not sure, but there's no harm in trying. We could have learned some interrogation techniques when we were in the village. We could have asked the crazy Chunin exam proctor to teach us." "I don't think that would have been a good idea. She might have killed us while teaching us." "You're right, but then, how are we going to get the information we need? We don't even know how to perform genjutsu. I think our leader didn't receive proper ninja training. He should have been able to do cool things like our dad. It seems he'll have to undergo full ninja training. But even if he does that, there's no one to train us in genjutsu." The clones kept talking among themselves, unaware that the fallen angel was waking up. He was confused about where he was supposed to be fighting a human. Then he remembered that he lost against the human. He, as a fallen angel, was supposed to be superior to that pitiful human. He tried to get up, but he couldn't. His whole body hurt when he moved. It seemed like he had several bone fractures, and he didn't understand how a human could do this to him. Surely, the human had a sacred gear, which must be the reason he was defeated. No ordinary human could possess that kind of strength. He needed to retreat and report what had happened to his boss. If they took the sacred gear he had, he would surely become stronger than the Mao. But before doing that, he had to recover from his injuries. He still had magic, but he didn't know how to perform healing magic. If he rested for a while, He might be able to move and report everything that had happened. He thought it was a good plan until he looked to his right and saw the human who defeated him. Now he was in trouble because he couldn't do it here. The human might kill him before he could escape. He needed a plan to get out of the human's sight, but he didn't know what to do. The clones, after discussing what the original should do, turned to the fallen angel, realizing he was awake. They saw an opportunity to get answers. One of the clones approached and spoke to him. "Since you're awake, we were hoping you could give us some answers. I hope you respond because your life might depend on it," said the clone seriously. "Do you think I'll answer your stupid questions, human? Well, I tried to make it easy, but you didn't listen. So, don't blame me for this, it's your fault." The fallen angel just sighed, not sure what the human could do. If he didn't answer, the human would win, and he couldn't think of a way to make him talk. Unfortunately for the fallen angel, it was the worst thing that could ever happen to him. Fine. I'll tell you everything, just stop." The fallen angel couldn't bear the mental torture the blonde inflicted on him. He never expected such a level of torment and didn't want to go through it again. It would stay with him as trauma for the rest of his life, assuming he didn't commit suicide first. The clones smiled, their torture plan had worked perfectly, and the fallen angel would answer all their questions. "All right, you can stop now," said the clone who had been talking to him before. He didn't think this method would work so well. Maybe he should use it for torture more often. Thank you. It's finally over. I didn't think I could endure that any longer, then answer my questions as a sign of gratitude." The fallen angel nodded. "Okay, my first question is, why were you after those girls?" The fallen angel didn't want to answer, but he didn't want to go through that torture again. So, he reluctantly replied. "All right, I'll tell you. I was given a mission to kidnap the Mao's sister. But when it seemed like the mission was about to fail, the girl entered the forest with another one of the Mao's sisters. I couldn't miss that opportunity." The blonde nodded, he didn't know why that was relevant, and he didn't know who the Mao were. He decided to move on and asked, "So, why were you sent on this mission?" The fallen angel only smiled, and the clone looked at him more seriously. "Why are you grinning?" The fallen angel dropped his smile and replied, "It's simple, my boss sent me to create a war with the demons." The clone didn't know the girls were demons, but he put that aside and asked, "Who is your boss?" He wanted to know who had sent him here, even if he couldn't do anything right now. At least he wanted to know who was behind all of this. The fallen angel just scoffed, he wouldn't reveal his boss's name. If he did, it could ruin their plans, and it would be his fault. "Do you really think I'll tell you his name?" The blonde got angry and punched the fallen angel in the ribs. Upon receiving the blow, the fallen angel spat blood. He was still injured, and it seemed like his bones were piercing his lung. "Ha ha. Whatever you do, I'll never tell you. I'll never betray his trust." Even if Naruto hit him as much as he wanted, he wouldn't get any answers from him. The fallen angel let out a sigh, it seemed like he would die from his wounds. He wasn't someone who liked killing people, even if they were his enemies, but he knew that as a ninja, he had to do it at least once. Since he had someone who was about to die, he decided to help him in the process. He gave a look to the clones behind him, they seemed to agree with him. The clone wanted to know if he could perform the Rasengan. He wasn't supposed to be able to, but with the help of another clone, maybe it was possible. He raised his hand, and one of the clones assisted him. He began moving his hands to try to create the Rasengan, just like when he was a child. It took them a little time, but they succeeded. The fallen angel wondered what they would do with that compressed blue sphere. He noticed that the blonde was excited about the other blondes who were there. At first, it seemed strange to see two identical copies of him next to the blonde. He had seen something similar to what the yokai did. So he thought they were illusions. Apparently, they were physical, and he didn't know what they would do by approaching him with that blue sphere. He had an idea that seemed the most accurate. They were going to kill him with it, he couldn't do anything but wait for the inevitable. One clone approached him and threw him into the air, while the other waited for the right moment to strike. The fallen angel was descending, and the clone ran toward him. Rasengan. The clone shouted the technique's name. Upon impact, the fallen angel felt like his organs were being crushed. He didn't understand how this attack could cause internal damage, he thought that would be the end of it. But he didn't think the attack would carry him into the trees and make a longer path than when he was first hit. The clone saw that he was no longer moving, and a pool of blood was forming. "Do you think the original will be upset?" "I don't know, but at least we have some information." "You're right, he'll probably be pleased with what we've discovered." The clones waited for a moment, not knowing what to do, as it was getting close to dawn. They decided to explore the area a bit. But before they left, they looked at the fallen angel one last time, and he was disappearing into black feathers. That was strange for them, they never expected to see them disappear into black feathers. They were about to comment on it, but they vanished in a puff of smoke. End of flashback. Naruto was left unsure of what to think after witnessing everything his clones had gone through. While he now knew more than they did, he wasn't comfortable with the idea of killing the fallen angel. He wasn't inclined to take a life, even if the person was an enemy. He hoped it wouldn't come to that. Naruto! 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 Sarafal shouted. Naruto snapped back to attention at the third call. He hadn't realized they were calling him. Had it been obvious that he was lost in thought? He needed to come up with a believable response to avoid too many questions. Oh, sorry, what were you saying? Sai, I was saying that my parents will arrive a little earlier than expected, and it would be good for you to meet them. They were the ones who allowed you to stay, she said with a pout. She thought he might be teasing her, and she was curious about why he was acting this way. Naruto, could you tell me why you were so lost in thought? She asked nervously. She wasn't sure if he would answer, but she had nothing to lose by asking. Well, I was just thinking about where I could find a place to train. In the end, Naruto decided to be honest, he didn't like lying that much. It wasn't his nature. Train? Do you have knowledge of how to use magic? Sarafal was curious about that. While all supernatural beings knew how to use magic, she didn't know of many humans who could use it. On the other hand, Naruto didn't know what magic was. He used chakra. Could that be the reason he didn't sense it in them? It would make some sense that they didn't use chakra since they were in a different world. So, it wouldn't be that strange. He wondered if he could use magic. No. I wanted to know where there's a place to train and strengthen the powers I have, Naruto replied. Sona remembered the first time she saw Naruto, he had different eyes and told her and Rias that it was a power he could use. Could he be referring to needing to train it to use it efficiently? Are you going to train what you used against the fallen angel? Sona asked. Naruto saw an opportunity to use what Sona had said. Yes, even though I can use it, I can't do it at full power yet. I don't know its limits. Sarafal was intrigued by what they were talking about. Was he using something other than magic? Humans were supposed to only use magic, so to satisfy her curiosity, she asked. Could you tell me what you're talking about? She said, with curiosity. I don't think there would be a problem showing you, Naruto replied calmly. There was no issue in showing her. But we need to be outside, I can't do it indoors. Don't you think? He said with a smile. You're right, I forgot about that, Sarafal said, sticking out her tongue and scratching her head nervously. To Naruto, that image made her look cute. He blushed at the thought. Wow, brat, so you've already found your future partner, huh? Kurama said mockingly. Naruto didn't think Kurama was watching, or he would have helped him a moment ago. Hey, Kurama, were you watching everything? Yeah, it's amusing to see how you get out of this. By the way, we need to talk about your memories, Naruto. You're right, we do need to talk about that. After the brief conversation with Kurama, the three of them went out to the mansion's courtyard. Alright, now that we're here, can you show me that power Sotan mentioned? Sarafal said excitedly, with stars in her eyes. Naruto and Sona shared a nervous look at Sarafal's enthusiasm. Naruto moved a little away, got into a stance, and stood still. After a few seconds, he entered Sage mode. The sisters could see him accessing the power he had. The contours of his eyes turned orange, including his eyelids. Sarafal could sense his presence disappearing. She realized that if he weren't right in front of her, she wouldn't know he was there. When Naruto opened his eyes, they had transformed into a toad-like appearance. This is what I used against the fallen angel, he explained. Does it have a name when you use it? Sona asked, curious if it had a name, and if it didn't, she might suggest giving it one. Yes, it's called Sage Mode. What can you do with it? Sarafal inquired. She only knew that he could apparently make his presence vanish. Is it a good idea to tell them what I can do when I use Senjutsu? Relax, Naruto, just give them a basic explanation. There's no need to reveal everything you know. But do you think it's a good idea? You'll only tell them something basic, not your whole life, dash. Alright, but if something else happens, you'll have to help me with this, dash. Well, besides my eyes changing, it gives me a boost in physical strength. I can also sense others' presence. Dash. Aren't you forgetting something? Dash. I don't think I'm missing anything. He said confidently. Even though he knew he didn't tell them everything, he didn't know that they had detected something about his senjutsu that he didn't. Are you sure? Dash. Yes. Dash. Seriously, you're not forgetting anything? Dash. Yes, very sure. Dash. One-sama, could you tell Naruto what he forgot to say? This is getting frustrating. Dash. Don't be mad, Sotan. I just wanted to ask if you forgot anything. She said, pouting. So, can you tell me what I forgot to say? Dash. Of course, when you used the Sennin mode, your presence disappeared. She said with a smile. Naruto and Kurama didn't know that this happened when he used senjutsu. Could it be because he used chakra and they used magic? They didn't know if that was the reason. They should find out why this was happening. Wow, I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me, Sarafal. He said with a smile. Sarafal was happy for the thanks. It made her feel different when Naruto said it in some way. It made her happy that he thanked her. Even though I'm curious to see what you can do with the Sennin mode, I have to do the Mao's work. She said with a depressed aura and teary eyes. She didn't like being in an office with paperwork. She would prefer to be with her Sotan or try to talk to Naruto. Naruto, Sona, and Kurama all had a sweat drop on their heads. Sona was embarrassed by her sister's attitude, while Naruto had a nervous smile. Kurama, on the other hand, thought, why does this kid get interested in weird women with strange attitudes? At least this time, it's not a pink, shouting, and punch-happy lady. He said this in his mind. I think it's time for you to go, One-sama. Dash. Okay, she said with a depressed aura. Take care, Sotan, Naruto. Dash, she said cheerfully, ignoring the fact that she was depressed earlier. Sarafal left in a magical circle, leaving Sona and Naruto alone, both with a large sweat drop on their heads. Naruto and Kurama thought that she had very rapid mood swings. Sona wanted to change the atmosphere, so she asked Naruto. Can I watch your training? Dash. Now, how do I tell Sona that she can't without being offensive? I told you, Kurama, something like this would happen, Dash. Don't worry, Gaki, I've got it all under control, Dash. So what's your plan, Kurama? Dash. It's simple, just let her watch, Dash. Huh? But what are you saying, Kurama? That's what I want to avoid, Dash. I mean, let her watch your physical training. You know, before you can use the chakra you have now, you should do it. You can use senjutsu, but you can't use it as you should. There are many things you should train before moving on to chakra, Dash. Oh, then there shouldn't be any problems, Dash. Of course, Sona, you can watch, but it would be better if you stayed a bit away. I'm not sure if I could hurt you by being close here. Dash, besides, Sarafal might get upset with me if something happens to you, Dash. Alright. Dash. Now that Sona is away, we need to talk about the dream I had, Kurama, Dash. You're right, I never expected this. More things like this might happen. My father never told me about this. It's very strange that Hashirama was here, and I didn't realize it, Dash. Kurama, I think I know how to open the seals, Dash. I think we're thinking the same thing. This can't be a coincidence. You're right, it could be that the key to opening the seal has to do with everyone who came with me, Dash. Huh? Why do you think there might be more people here? I thought you were referring to Fuinjutsu to open it, Dash. I won't lie, this seems like a mistaken idea, but it could be possible. The seal shouldn't have a cell with you inside. We're supposed to have combined our chakra, and something like this shouldn't happen, Dash. You may be right, but I wouldn't completely trust that. Anyway, you need to learn Fuinjutsu. The people in your clan were experts in Fuinjutsu, Dash. Was there an Uzumaki clan? Dash. That's right, no one told you. I thought your mother would have told you when you took my chakra, Dash. Maybe I asked her something else, Dash. You were quite foolish before the war, Naruto, Dash, he said with a sigh at the end. Hey, it's not my fault I didn't know. How was I supposed to know I had a clan if I'd never heard about it? Dash. I can't argue with that. In your whole life, you never heard about your clan. No matter, having both Mito and your mother as Jinchuriki will help teach you Fuinjutsu. And don't forget the experiences Hashirama gave you. Your training will be long. But it will be very beneficial in the future. You'll be like the Rikudo Sennin, dash. Will I be as strong as him? Dash. Possibly even stronger. If you haven't forgotten, I'm essentially like the 10 tails. And you have Asura's chakra. So, you're supposed to have all 5 chakra natures. I'm not sure if you'll have Kekkei Genkai, it's very likely you won't. But you could become a master in the primary affinities, and even though it's very unlikely, you could acquire 1 or 2 advanced chakra natures, dash. Sigh, it looks like I won't get any breaks, will I? Dash. Huff, I told you to prepare for the training, this will be like being in hell, dash. Kurama, we're supposed to be in hell, dash, he said with a sweat drop on his forehead. Minor details, Gaki, dash, he said with annoyance because Naruto was right. Naruto finished the conversation and began to train, even though he didn't know how to self-train, he had the memories of the Shodaime. This would be very helpful right now, it was a better gift than having Dujutsu. Even if he had them, he didn't know how to use them, and Kurama didn't either. He only knew what the Rinnegan and Sharingan could do. But knowing what they could do was of no use if he didn't know how to do it. He would have to train with them in another place where no one could see. While Naruto was talking to Kurama, Sona wondered what kind of training he would have. She had seen with Rias that he had a lot of strength when he had the Sennin mode activated, as he called it. She wondered why a part of the name of the power he used meant sage. Does it have something to do with why it's called that? Dash, she wondered mentally. She didn't know how to find an answer to this, it was another of Naruto's mysteries. Perhaps she had found the most interesting person in her life. In her opinion, he was very cool. I definitely need to know where Naruto comes from. Maybe Rias will help him figure this out, she was supposed to come play with me. I don't entirely believe that, she'll probably spend her time with Naruto, bombarding him with questions. She sighed, perhaps that's why she didn't want to leave in the first place. She felt a bit sorry for Naruto, having to deal with an energetic Rias. In another part of the underworld. Surzex was at his desk, thinking about how Naruto came to the underworld if he didn't come voluntarily, so who sent him? He wondered mentally. He had many questions about how it happened, not that he thought it was bad. He could tell that Naruto was a good person, and he was grateful that he saved his Ria-tan. She was his sister, after all, they had caused a war with Sarafal just because a fallen angel had cut a single hair. He needed to know how things unfolded. That's why he had given Sarafal that look. Now he needed to get rid of all the paperwork for today. He gave a quick glance to the paperwork. He had 2 options, finish everything or simply escape his queen. It didn't take him long to decide, it was very simple for him. And that was to escape Graphia without her noticing. He even gave this operation a name, Operation Escape Graphia, to talk to Sara-chan about Ria-tan. In his head, it was the perfect name, and everything was in his favor since his queen wasn't by his side at the moment. So he could do it without much trouble. He created a teleportation magic circle and was about to leave. But to his bad luck, Graphia entered his office. It was too late to stop, as the magic circle was already halfway through his body. Even though all this happened in a matter of seconds, it felt like hours to him. He was nervous that she had seen him shirk his duties. He would even pray to God to save him, but he was a demon. He just hoped that she wouldn't be too upset with him for doing that. Sarafal's office. Sai, I don't like being here. I'd rather be with So-tan and ask her questions about Naruto. Sai, life is unfair to me. She pouted at the end. She wondered what she was doing in this place, doing paperwork seemed so boring. Then she remembered that she was a Mao, so she had no other option but to do her work as one. Besides, Surzex should be arriving any moment now, considering how Naruto was supposed to have arrived. That's what she believed, that's why he was coming, or maybe he had another reason. But even if she wondered how Naruto arrived in the underworld, she wouldn't know the answer, it was very strange. He didn't come here willingly, he just appeared in the forest behind the Sitri clan's grounds. It seemed like an unsolvable mystery, and Sona was somehow drawn to him. Could it be that she also wanted to unravel the enigma that was Naruto? She would like to be able to talk to Naruto with the same confidence that her sister had. But she got nervous when talking to him, she could only stay calm when Sona was nearby. That would be a problem for her if she wanted to get to know him better. She was the older sister and shouldn't act this way when talking to a guy. She should have the same confidence she had when talking to others. Now she knew what she had to do when she got home. She had to get rid of the nervousness she felt, so she could ask Naruto questions. Sarafal continued to be lost in her thoughts, so much so that she didn't see the magic circle that appeared in her office. When the magic circle revealed who it was teleporting, it was Surzex, who looked very nervous. But Sarafal wasn't paying attention to who was arriving in the magic circle. Surzex, on the other hand, hoped that she would see him arrive. He saw her deep in thought, and he didn't know why she was like that. He simply approached her and cleared his throat, ahem ahem, but there was no response, ahem ahem. She continued not to respond. Surzex sighed, he didn't expect her to be so lost in her thoughts. Sarafal, could you react? He said calmly. It looks like I'll have to do something more effective to get her attention. Sarafal, look, Sona-chan came to visit you. Sarafal quickly reacted to what Lucifer had said. Where's So-tan? She looked around, but she couldn't find her. However, she did notice the Mao. Oh, do you know where So-tan is, Surzex-chan? She said, hoping it wasn't a lie that she had come. I'm sorry for that, but seeing that you weren't responding, it was the only option to get you to answer. Huh? So-tan didn't come? No, she's not here. Sarafal could only exude an aura of depression upon hearing that. She thought her younger sister missed her and had come to visit. Life is so unfair, she thought. Surzex saw all of this with a sweat drop on his head. Leaving that aside, what did you want to talk about? He said seriously. I think you know what I mean, Sarafal. He said in the same manner. I had an idea, but no matter how much you ask me, I don't know how he got here. So, you don't know either? No, all I know is that he has an ability or power that I can't sense. You couldn't sense it? No, when he used it, I couldn't sense his presence. If he hadn't been right in front of me, I wouldn't have believed it. Isn't it a sacred gear? I don't know, but I think it would be better if you talk to him. He might get mad at us for talking behind his back. You're right, if we want to have a friendly relationship with him, we shouldn't talk behind his back. But before I go, do you know how he defeated the fallen angel? Rias only told me that when she defeated him, he had eyes like a toad and orange eye contours. That's the power he can use, I can't say much more than that it wasn't magic. Surzex was confused, humans were supposed to only be able to use magic. What kind of energy does Naruto use? This must be the reason why they couldn't sense magical power in him. I guess I'll have to ask him personally, right? Sarafal nodded. Well, this serves as an excuse for me to escape my Mao duties, or at least for a while. Well, that's all, goodbye. Goodbye, Surzex-chan. She said with her characteristic smile. Chapter 5, Chakra? Surzex appeared in Citri's mansion garden, thinking that Naruto might be there. He didn't know why, but he had a feeling something was amiss. Perhaps he was still nervous about Graphia finding him, but he didn't come here to deal with his problems in another place. He came to talk to Naruto. He turned his head to see that a part of the forest and the garden was a bit damaged, with Sona standing there, looking at the mess. What happened here before I arrived? He was curious about the state of the place and approached Sona, who seemed stiff. What could have happened to make it like this? He was puzzled about the situation. He grew more concerned when he couldn't find Naruto anywhere. Where's Naruto? I can't sense him anywhere, and this is what Sarafal told me. Maybe it's not that. Naruto should be nearby, but he's nowhere to be found. He searched his surroundings but couldn't find an answer, so he decided to ask Sona about what had happened. Sona-chan, do you know what happened here? He spoke calmly, but Sona remained silent, which worried him. He was concerned that something might have happened to her while he was there, even though he was confident he could protect her. After all, she was just a child and could be traumatized by the incident. Sona-chan, are you okay? Say something. Sona was lost in thought, not hearing what the Mao said to her. She couldn't understand how Naruto, a human, could have caused all this damage. How did he do all of this? She was confused and desperate to understand what had happened. She wanted to know why things had ended up like this. Before she could address her concerns, she felt a gentle shake and turned her head. Mao Lucifer was standing beside her, and she hadn't even noticed his presence. She questioned herself, how lost in thought was I not to notice he was right beside me? She realized she might be spending too much time with her sister, which might be affecting her awareness. She made a mental note to keep her distance from her sister to avoid becoming like her. She pushed her thoughts aside to respond to the Mao, who was speaking to her. Excuse me, but what brings you here? Sona's voice carried a clear note of doubt. She wanted to understand why he had come here, even though she didn't want to be rude to one of the Mao. However, his presence puzzled her. "Oh, that's easy to answer, Sona-chan," he said with a smile. "I came to talk to Naruto. Have you seen him around here? I have some questions for him." He concluded calmly, eager to clarify his doubts, even though they didn't know each other well. They had only met once the day before, but the mystery surrounding Naruto intrigued him. Sona shook her head and replied, "I don't know. I briefly returned to the mansion, and when I came back, he was gone, and everything was in this state." Surzex nodded. "I guess we'll have to look for Naruto, don't you think?" Sona agreed. Before they went to search for the blonde, they heard a loud noise coming from the forest. They decided to investigate, feeling safe with Surzex there. Forest area. Approaching cautiously, even with Surzex leading the way, Sona was a child and needed to ensure her safety. She couldn't imagine what Sarafal would do if something happened to her under her provisional supervision. She whispered, "I don't want to imagine what Surzex-sama would do." She asked, "Who would tell him?" She could hear what he had whispered, and she inquired, "Nothing to worry about, Sona-chan, but it's better if you don't leave my side. Okay?" Sona nodded in agreement. They reached the location and saw Naruto. But wait, was there another Naruto with him? They wondered if they were seeing double. Could it be one of Naruto's abilities? They both pondered the same question simultaneously. They were about to call out to him when the second Naruto vanished in a puff of smoke. Now they suspected it might be one of Naruto's abilities. Sona moved quickly towards Naruto, almost as if she had teleported, and Surzex, who was a bit slower, followed her. He didn't see it as a problem if she could do that. It might be a sign of her growing up to become a very fast demon. He approached Naruto, a few meters away, thinking he needed to find a way to approach Naruto without raising suspicion and get answers to his questions. With Naruto, Sona had somehow reached him too quickly, and Naruto was surprised to see her by his side. He hadn't noticed she was with him. Did she see the clone disappear? He wondered, filled with doubt and a bit of nervousness. If she had, he would have to explain how he could create clones. "I guess that's a somewhat redundant question," Kurama replied, as if it were obvious. "What do you mean by that?" She saw it very clearly. "If you want my opinion, along with someone else, who you might know because they were with her." Naruto was shocked. "Was I so focused that I couldn't sense them with my Sage Mode active?" He couldn't believe he hadn't felt their presence. He should have at least sensed that someone was watching him as a last resort. "I guess this is another indication that I need to take my training more seriously. But aside from that, why didn't you warn me they were there?" He scolded Kurama for not alerting him. "I thought you wouldn't need me to tell you. Remember, you had Sage Mode active? I should have told you if you couldn't sense them yourself easily," Kurama replied, sounding reproachful. "But I was training. How was I supposed to notice that?" Naruto responded, expressing his frustration. "Take it as a lesson for not being attentive to your surroundings. You were in a war, after all. You shouldn't be so distracted. You know it could cost you your life, right? Wasn't that how the Hyuga died? You need to take this seriously if you don't want someone else to die from such a simple oversight of not paying attention to who's around you," Kurama scolded with irritation in his voice. He couldn't believe Naruto was acting that way, knowing that a simple lack of awareness could be fatal. Having so much power wouldn't serve any purpose if he was distracted during a fight. Even someone weaker than Naruto could kill him if he remained careless about his surroundings. "Hey, don't get angry about it. After all, they were people we know." "That's exactly why, Gaki. They may be your friends or acquaintances, but an enemy could attack you when you least expect it, and you wouldn't be prepared for what happens. And since you seem so distracted, I think I'll increase your training to shake off that carelessness." "Hey, you're not planning to train me to death, are you? I told you to prepare for this. Unlike your perverted godfather and that scarecrow you had as a sensei, I'll train you until you feel like you're going to die." Naruto hadn't taken it seriously the first time Kurama mentioned it, but now he was genuinely nervous about what lay ahead in his training. He ended his conversation with Kurama to try to talk to Sona, who was looking at him intently. "Sigh, it looks like I'll have to explain what they just saw," he spoke in a defeated tone. He didn't want them to find out that he used chakra. "Wait, if Kurama told me he came with someone else, where is he?" He didn't need much time to wonder who the person with the black hair was, as a quick glance revealed him heading towards them. "Looks like I definitely have to explain what they saw." He noticed it was Surzex with her, and he thought he wasn't having much luck hiding the fact that he used chakra. He waited until Surzex was close to him to avoid having to repeat himself. "I wonder if I'll have to tell Sarafal too." He set aside those thoughts and addressed the people in front of him. I guess you have questions about what you just witnessed, right? The two nodded, with one being quicker than the other. Good, who wants to ask first? He didn't finish his sentence because Sona interrupted him, leaving him with words on his lips. Who was the person with you? Why did he disappear in a puff of smoke? Is it an ability you have? Can you make more of them? Sona wanted to ask more questions, but the red-haired man present interrupted. Calm down a bit, Sona-chan. Let Naruto speak before we ask more questions. Okay? The mentioned person nodded, relieved that Surzex had stopped her. He didn't know if he could have answered more questions that she wanted to ask. He mentally thanked Surzex and prepared to respond. I guess I'll have to explain how I made that person. To put it briefly, that was a clone. A clone? Was that a clone? But it seemed physical, not an illusion, Surzex wondered. He knew they could create clones, but they were supposed to be illusions. He didn't think Naruto could create physical clones. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions, and the illusion could have been very convincing to make me think it was real. A clone? That was a clone? Sona asked curiously. She had never seen a clone and had only read a small part about magic in a book. But it stated that clones were supposed to be illusions. Maybe I could make them believe they were illusions and not physical clones. That seems like a good idea. I wouldn't say that if I were you, Naruto. The redhead next to the girl seems to have realized they weren't illusions. Snort, there's no possible escape from this. Let's see how you handle telling them you don't use magic and use chakra. This is very interesting, Kurama told him teasingly. What do you mean by interesting? I mean that your life is very interesting to watch. This is what kept me entertained for the most part when I was locked up in here. There's everything in your life. You should consider writing a book about it. I bet it would sell well, maybe even more than the pervert's book. Hey, you know my life is not interesting at all, right? Believe what you want, but I think it would make a good book. It has everything, you know? If you ever go to the human world, you could consider it. You have nothing to lose by trying it anyway. The blonde simply dismissed Kurama's idea of writing a book about his life because he didn't think his life would make for a very uplifting story. His early years were far from ideal, with only a few bright spots in his life. Certain events had to happen in the village to change people's perception of him, and he had to go to a war that killed everyone there. Writing about that could be a downer, and he wasn't sure if it would be a success. Still, he had nothing to lose, as Kurama had mentioned. He might even publish Jiraiya's books. He didn't have them in physical form, but after reading each of Jiraiya's books so many times, he had memorized them. He returned from his mental musings when he noticed they were looking at him, expecting an answer to the question they had asked. No, I can't do illusion magic, Sona. So, it wasn't an illusion? No, they were physical clones I created using something called chakra. Chakra? The black-haired girl and the red-haired man exclaimed simultaneously. Surzex was left bewildered. How could he use chakra? That should only be possible for yokai, not a human. It was impossible. What is chakra? Ha ha ha, he's asking something you probably don't know, Gaki. You never paid attention to chakra. Now, what are you going to say? Come on, I want to know how this unfolds. Stop talking for a moment and let me talk to them. Can't you see I'm trying to explain? Say whatever you want. Besides, you don't even know what chakra is made of. Want to bet on that? You're not going to lure me into that. You should know, and even if you did, I'd have nothing to bet. Sure, whatever you say. Kurama grumbled at what Naruto said but let it slide. Right now, he was more interested in what the blonde was about to say. Chakra is the life energy I used to create the clone. Before Sona could ask anything, he quickly added, let me finish my explanation before you ask any questions, okay? Sona nodded in agreement. Okay, now, chakra is a mixture of both spiritual and physical energy, achieved through physical and manipulation training. I can use it in various ways, like creating clones. Any questions? Why can you use chakra instead of magic? Yokai are supposed to be the only ones who can use it, Surzex asked before Sona could say anything, which irked her a bit. She wanted to ask first, but she remembered he was Mao Lucifer, so she couldn't really complain. Well, that's a good question. He, well, the answer to that is that I had a teacher who taught me how to use chakra. Hey, Kurama, what are yokai? How am I supposed to know that? We haven't seen or sensed any. Besides, I don't even know what a yokai is. I'm locked in here, remember? Naruto mentally sighed, realizing that neither he nor Kurama knew what a yokai was. As Naruto was in his mental conversation, Surzex was pondering how Naruto learned to use chakra. I've never heard of being able to teach someone to use chakra. I thought only yokai could use it. It can't be taught if it's not another yokai. Something doesn't add up here. Will he answer if I ask about this later? Come to think of it, only yokai could access something more advanced than chakra. I think it was called senjutsu. And from what Sarafal mentioned about the power, I couldn't sense it unless it was right in front of me. Maybe, was she referring to this? I can't sense it unless it's right in front of me. Is this what senjutsu is? I can't understand. Is Naruto really a human as he told us, or is he hiding something? That's true, we've only just met. It wouldn't be common for him to tell me everything he knows when we've only seen each other once. I suppose I'll have to find out who or what he is in the future. That's all I was going to ask. Thanks for answering. Sure, no problem, the blonde replied with a slight smile. Do you have any questions, Sona? Sona nodded in response and asked, can you make more than one clone? This was the question she had been waiting to ask, as she already had answers to everything else Naruto had said to Surzex. Yes, I can make many more. I wouldn't know the exact number I could make, but I can make a lot. I even used them against the fallen angel the day we met. Sona was surprised, she hadn't seen any clones. There were clones that time? She asked with doubt. She hadn't seen them at that moment. She must have been very nervous about the fallen angel, or he had hidden them. She didn't know the answer. Yes, I made 3 clones to distract the fallen angel so I could defeat it stealthily. But you know what happened next, right? Sona nodded, she got the answer to why she hadn't seen the clones. She remembered that before he appeared, there was a sound in the bushes, which was probably the clones drawing attention so he could defeat it. Wow, and I thought you would tell them more about chakra. You were always quite talkative. I wouldn't have been surprised if you had told them everything about it, from its use to the different natures. Hey, that's a bit offensive, you know? There was no need to tell me that. It's because I was waiting for something else to happen. But it seems you're growing and maturing. This will help you become a complete shinobi, not a clown in an orange suit with too much power. Sigh, okay. Whatever you say. I guess with this, the questions about the clone are cleared up. But I still have one more question. How did the garden and this part of the forest end up destroyed? Surzex asked. Is that right? I almost forgot about that. Could you tell us what happened? Sona added to the question. Well, that's the result of physical training I had. I was rusty, so I thought I should do some physical training before I could use chakra properly. Good idea, don't you think? At such a response, both of them had a sweat drop, wondering how a training session could destroy this place so easily. If they only knew that what Naruto did was nothing compared to 2 people in green spandex shouting about the flames of youth. I suppose the mysteries have been solved, don't you think, Sona-chan? The redhead said with a hint of nervousness. Sona simply nodded. Shouldn't we head back, don't you think? With that said, they returned to the mansion, with Sona wanting to know what yokai were and why only they could use chakra, Naruto having the same questions as Sona, and Surzex wondering what Naruto was. Back of the mansion. When they finally returned, Naruto was having a mental conversation with Kurama. He still had some doubts about revealing chakra. Do you think it was a good idea to tell them about chakra? I can't answer that, Gaki. It could have been the right thing to do, or not. Who knows, but it's probably better that you had known them for a longer time before discussing it. But the upside is that you can probably use chakra more freely now. You're right, at least I can have more freedom with chakra. That's true, we didn't even finish talking about the clones. Do you think they overreacted a bit? I don't believe it. To me, it was a perfect torture execution. I never thought you could make a clone capable of something even you couldn't do. It's strange, and to think that the technique used by Senju could do more things without the original user knowing. Using that torture, I never thought it would be so effective. I almost felt sorry for the fallen angel, but enough with the jokes. It was necessary, but we don't know who ordered it. You should be careful with their boss for now, you still have a lot to refine, and you'll have to do it much more seriously. You're right, I need to be serious about this. It's not all a game, I need to be cautious about their boss. I know nothing about him and even less about what he can do. It would be a tough battle without knowing what he's capable of. It's in moments like these that you must act like a ninja, try to gather information about the one the fallen angel called their boss. They might be weaker or stronger than you think. But where should I start to find that out? You're in training, Naruto, this will help you get information. It could save your life, you should learn it, it will be very important in the future, trust me. Naruto now had a purpose, he needed to gather information. Maybe he could ask Surzex or Sarafal. He thought it would be better to ask Sarafal since he trusted her more than the current Mao. It's not that he didn't trust him, but he preferred to confide in someone he felt more comfortable with. Now, I should wait for her to arrive, I don't think it will be much longer. Ah. I just remembered something. What's happening, Naruto? The redhead asked calmly. Sona's parents were supposed to arrive today, and they should be here shortly. Oh, Lord and Lady Citri were coming today? I guess I could stay for a moment to greet them. With everything that had happened, Sona had also forgotten about it. She felt happy to see her parents again. They had told her they had something important to do in a place called Japan, and she didn't know where that was, but it seemed important because they left right after saying that. I wonder what was so urgent in that place. Sigh, and now, what am I going to do with this mess? I don't know how to repair the floor. I may have all the basic elements, but without a jutsu, it won't be of any use. Surzex chuckled a bit at the blonde's attitude, but he thought he was making fun of him. Hey, what's so funny? The blonde scolded. I'm sorry, but I can fix this. In exchange, you answer me something in private. Do you accept? He finished with a smile that disturbed the blonde a little. At that moment, he thought he might indeed be a demon. Okay, I accept. Are you sure about this? You don't know what he might ask you. Truth is, I'm not sure, but I don't have another option. Or do I? I hope you don't regret this decision, Naruto. Hey, if I don't talk to them, how am I supposed to trust them? Sigh, okay, do as you wish, it's your thing anyway. If something goes wrong, don't come asking for my help. Just trust me. I'll always trust you, even if I shouldn't, because you're my friend, he said to himself. Alright, I'll fix this before they come back. Don't forget what we agreed on, he gave him a look indicating he couldn't back out of what he said. The blonde sighed lightly, he didn't know what he was going to be asked. He thought it could be something very important if it had to be done in private. While the blonde and the redhead were talking, they didn't realize someone else was watching them from afar. So, you ended up in the underworld, I didn't think you'd also meet Mao Lucifer. You're more interesting than I thought. Uzumaki Naruto. I found something very interesting in following you. What more will you do in the future? He created a teleportation circle and turned to look at the blonde before leaving. I hope you're not a waste of time. Returning to the Mao and the blonde, they both felt a small presence. They didn't know whose it was or why they felt it when it seemed to be leaving, but the ease with which it could hide from them alarmed them. Especially Naruto, who had Kurama with him to alert him. He only knew this because he kept using Senjutsu. Hey, Kurama, you said I could be a censor, right? Yes, I told you, Gaki. I think you realize the importance of knowing who's around you. Kurama seemed serious with the last statement. You'll have to learn how to sense presences without using Senjutsu. Fortunately, your mother could do it too. I can do it as well, but in a different way. You'll have to learn about this while training your chakra control. This will get interesting in the future, and you need to be prepared for whatever comes. Naruto mentally nodded to Kurama. Even in the short time he's been here, there's someone or something he'll have to face. Being prepared must be his priority right now. He can't let anything happen to the people he met in the underworld. He hadn't known them for long, only 2 days, but he liked the people he met, and he thought they could be friends if they got to know each other better. This made him think of Sarafal. He didn't know why he felt this way about her. She was a bit strange with her attitude, but he liked that about her. What did I just say? How could he think that when he'd only known her for a few days? I don't know what this is, it's not like Sakura-chan. But there's definitely something I like about her. Sona approached the blonde, seeing him a bit serious like the Mao in front of him. She didn't understand why they had suddenly become like this, and she was curious about the change in attitude. Naruto, are you okay? She said as she gently tugged at his shirt to get his attention. The blonde snapped out of his thoughts due to the action taken by the black-haired girl and responded calmly. I'm fine, Sona, I was just thinking about something unimportant. It seems I won't get answers to the change in attitude, at least they're not so serious now. The atmosphere felt tense a moment ago, what could have made them change so quickly? Sona nodded, she wouldn't get answers from him. It must be something very important, I think I should stop asking. The redhead returned from his thoughts and started fixing Naruto's mess. But one question wouldn't leave his mind. Who was that? That thing or person used magic. I could feel it when they left, he said seriously. It seems Naruto felt it too, just like me. I think it would be best to send guards to check the demon territory's perimeters. I can't allow someone to easily infiltrate our territory. Naruto and Sona returned to the mansion, leaving the redhead to deal with the mess. They each went their separate ways. They wanted to do different things before Sona's parents returned. Naruto wanted to take a shower, but before entering his room, he remembered that he was still using Senjutsu. How is it possible that I forgot to deactivate it? No, the real question is, how does it last so long without deactivating? He sounded doubtful when asking that. It was supposed to run out at some point. Senjutsu shouldn't last this long. Could it be that I have unlimited time to use it in this world? He stopped questioning and deactivated it. He didn't have much time to ponder this at the moment. He took a quick shower and put on his clothes. They weren't in the best shape, but they were all he had. I'll need to get more changes of clothes. I can't wear the same thing all day. Would Sarafal be able to help me with that? I don't know if humans are allowed to buy clothes in the underworld. Wouldn't it be considered a date to do that? You're moving fast, huh? Kurama said mockingly. It wouldn't be a date, it's just buying some clothes with her. A slight blush appeared on his face when he said date. He didn't mean that, he just wanted more clothes. Sure, whatever you say. He put aside Kurama's comments to look as presentable as possible. He sighed, feeling nervous. He didn't know what the girl's parents were like. He hoped they weren't very strict, as he didn't want to mess things up. He didn't know much about etiquette beyond the basics, and he assumed they were a noble family. Naruto, it's obvious that they're nobles. Can't you see the size of their house and all the servants here? Kurama pointed out. It was so evident that it would be impossible not to see. The blonde wanted to facepalm. How could he be so blind to this? He's not an idiot, is he? The real question would be, when weren't you? Haha, very funny, Kurama. Sigh, I hope this doesn't end too badly. Sarafal's office. Finally finished, she said happily, surrounded by what seemed like stars. Now, I just need to go back and spend time with Sotan. She was so happy to return that she was releasing stars just by moving, a strange sight if anyone saw it. My parents should have returned. Have they finished their business in Kyoto? Unlike her sister, she knew where they were going. However, she still didn't understand why they went to Kyoto. There was nothing there except for yokai, as far as she remembered. But she still liked the place, even if she hadn't been there in person. Should I try to form an alliance with them? I'd love to be in Kyoto and leave the Mao's work behind for a while. She got lost in her thoughts, imagining herself and Sona in Kyoto, both wearing kimonos and hugging because they looked adorable in her eyes. She daydreamed for about 30 minutes, thinking about all the things they would do there. Then, she remembered that she was supposed to return to the mansion and started to get a little nervous. Her parents weren't as carefree as she was, especially her mother. She needed to hurry back, otherwise, they might punish her by not letting her see her sister for a week. It wouldn't be a big deal for anyone who wasn't a Siskin, but she was, although not to an extreme degree. She was just very protective of her younger sister. I have to hurry, or they'll keep me away from Sotan. With that said, she returned to the mansion using her magic circle. Citri Territory Mansion. Sarafal appeared outside the main gates and entered to find everything quiet. Too quiet. There would usually be servants near the gates, but they weren't there. Maybe they're in the dining room? She wondered. I guess I should head there. She made her way to the dining room, but what she didn't expect to hear was laughter, and what was even more surprising was that it was her mother's laughter. That was unusual to see. Her mother was usually a very serious woman who rarely laughed. She wasn't a bad mother, she just liked to maintain a serious demeanor. She only changed that expression when she was a child, and she did it for Sona when they were alone. She entered slowly, hoping it was only her mother and Sona, but she found Naruto there as well. That was what left her in shock for a few long seconds. She didn't expect that at all. What did Naruto do to make mom laugh and smile? And where's dad? She didn't notice that both her mother and Naruto had seen her pass. Oh, Sarafal, I'm glad you're here and just in time. Her mother spoke with a smile that didn't seem to want to disappear. If the previous situation was strange, this was even stranger, especially when she obtained the title of Mao. Her mother talked to her more seriously, even though they were mother and daughter. I guess I should thank Naruto for making her not so serious all the time. We can finally have a normal conversation like when I was a child. She didn't know what he had done, but she really liked that her mother wasn't so serious all day. Hey, I just got here. But what do you mean by just in time? And shouldn't Dad be with you? Oh, I meant that we were talking about you at that precise moment. As for your father, he's busy right now. She blinked at that, wondering what could be keeping her father from reuniting with them. He was more expressive and cheerful than her mother. Now her mother was talking about her with Naruto. She hadn't thought her mother would talk to him about her. Her cheeks turned slightly red, and she would like to know what he thought of her. Come on, what are you waiting for? Sit down, her mother spoke kindly. The black-haired girl nodded at her mother's words and proceeded to sit down next to Naruto. There were other places to sit, but for some reason, she chose to sit next to him. Lady Citri watched this with a raised eyebrow and a curiosity she thought she'd never have again, and she had an almost imperceptible mischievous smile. The key word was almost because Naruto noticed that smile. He didn't know what she was planning, but it didn't seem like a good thing. Ara, this is strange. Why didn't you sit next to Sona-chan? Sarafal paused for a moment, taken aback by her mother's question. She didn't have an answer to it and was struggling to come up with one. It's because, she stopped speaking because she didn't know what to say, but Naruto saved her from having to answer at that moment. Cough, Lady Citri turned to look at him, and he continued, realizing he had caught her attention. It's because I wanted to talk to Sarafal when she arrived. I needed her help to get some things in the underworld, and I wanted to speak to her as soon as possible because it was very urgent, right? He spoke with a degree of nervousness in his voice. Naruto nodded, a bit amazed, which didn't go unnoticed by Lady Citri. She thought she shouldn't ask more questions about this. Anyway, she couldn't even if she wanted to. The conversation had closed with Sarafal's last words. She had a brilliant idea in mind, along with a sparkle in her eyes. Maybe this would make her plan work. Oh, doesn't that sound like you're inviting him on a date? Both Blondie and Pinky blushed a little, but they managed to hide it. They might have felt a mutual attraction, but they weren't sure if they both felt the same way. Also, all this attraction might be meaningless if they didn't know each other. They put that aside to respond, and Blondie was the first to speak. It's not that, I just wanted her to come with me because I don't know the place. And who better than Sarafal to ask for help? The said person nodded in agreement with Blondie and added, that's true, I'm just going to accompany him since he doesn't know anything about the underworld. Neither of them spoke further, perhaps because both didn't expect to say what they had just heard. But a certain Bijou wanted to comment. I told you Gaki, it sounded like a date, wasn't that what you always wanted with the pink-haired girl? At least now she's not a girl who hits you or yells at you all the time. That brat had my nerves on edge, along with my eardrums about to burst every time she spoke when they were Jinan. Kurama, now is not a good time to talk. And why would it be a bad time to talk if everything is silent right now? It's because I lose focus on the outside every time I talk to you. Why is it my fault that you're absent-minded? You've been that way your whole life, he teased at the end. Just, don't talk for a moment, please. All right, only because you ask that way, he said, feeling self-sufficient. Why did I have to end up with a Bijou as a partner? He whispered with a defeated tone. Hey! I heard that. Retract those words, you should be grateful that someone like me, the great Kura. Blondie ignored what the Bijou was about to say and focused on the outside. Meanwhile, Sona found the things that were happening amusing. She had never seen her sister like this, she always saw her cheerful and carefree, using Sotan every time she spoke, and that embarrassed her. She didn't just use it when they were alone, she called her that with anyone around them. But now she had a weapon that made her sister act differently, and it had a name, Uzumaki Naruto. Now, she could use the Blondie against her sister every time she was bothering her, in moments when she made her dress in different ways and any kind of activity that embarrassed her. Just calling Naruto was a flawless plan. That still seems like a date. Is it possible that? Lady Citri couldn't finish speaking because Sarafal covered her mouth before she could. We told you it's not that. So stop insinuating what it isn't. After shouting, Sarafal got a little scared. She had never shouted at her mother, and she didn't know if the good mood she had would disappear because of it. Lady Citri changed her cheerful expression to a serious one that always accompanied her, which made Sarafal tremble as she was the closest to her. She ran as fast as she could and stood behind Naruto. Blondie was confused by the pink-haired girl's action. Just a second ago, she was in front of her mother, but now she was behind him. Just a glance ahead was enough to understand why. The look she had was scary, very scary. He would rather face Kaguya and Madara again at the same time than be where he was. For some reason, he had a vague memory of his mother being angry. He didn't understand why he remembered that if he had never seen her like that. But he made a mental note that mothers are scary. Luckily for everyone in the room, Mao Lucifer entered. "Excuse me, am I interrupting something?" he said with a smile. "Of course not, Surzek-sama," Lady Sitri spoke respectfully to him. "In that case, could I borrow Naruto and Sarafal?" Before Lady Sitri could answer, the aforementioned two left the place and were waiting for Surzek's outside. A bead of sweat appeared on Mao's and Sona's forehead as they saw that both acted the same way. "I suppose that answers your question, right, Surzek-sama?" Even if she was a little annoyed by the two's attitude, Lady Sitri didn't lose her tone of respect towards the Mao. "Then I'll take my leave, have a good day." The Mao didn't fall behind with the formalities. With that last statement, he left, leaving Sona with her mother. She turned her gaze to see that both Naruto and Sarafal were giving her a thumbs up, looking at her with slightly teary eyes and gratitude in them. She wondered what happened for both of them to do the same, but she put it aside. Now his priority was something else. "I'll skip the formalities on this, so let's get straight to the point, okay?" Both nodded in response. "Good, but let's go to a more private place." Naruto knew what he wanted to discuss, but the other Mao present did not. So he asked why. "What do you want to talk about, Surzek-chan?" The redhead hadn't told Sarafal why he called them. He had forgotten that detail. His original idea was just to take Naruto because he knew the reason for all this, but somehow his instincts told him that it would be better to bring them both. "I'll tell you when we're in a more private place. This isn't something to discuss in a hallway with anyone listening, even if it's in your own house." Mao pouted at that response, but as quickly as she did, it disappeared because it seemed like this was a serious matter. She didn't have time to play at the moment, so she nodded in understanding, and the three of them headed to the room where the blondie was staying. It wasn't the best place for the conversation they were about to have, but it was the best option at that moment. No one passed by that place at that hour, and it was somewhat secluded, so no one would eavesdrop on their conversation. "Well, this isn't the best place, but I guess we can talk here," said the redhead. "Okay, what is it you wanted to discuss?" "Well, it's mainly a question for Naruto." "Why did you want to ask something to Naruto in private? And if so, what am I doing here?" "That's something I hadn't planned, but somehow I thought you should be in this conversation." Sarafal nodded, not entirely convinced, but at least she wouldn't have to be near her mother with that expression on her face. Just thinking about it gave her the creeps. "All right, ask whatever you want, Surzek, that's what I promised, isn't it?" Naruto spoke seriously, not knowing why he wanted to ask something in private, but it seemed very important. "Yes, now my question is, what are you?" "No human should be able to use chakra. Only yokai should be able to use it." Sarafal was puzzled by the question. How did he know that Naruto used chakra if she had never seen him using it? In fact, she had never seen him use magic either. She thought he was just a simple person who happened to end up in the underworld by chance. But now they were saying he used chakra. How was that possible? "Chakra? Do you mean Naruto uses chakra? But that would be impossible since only yokai should be able to use it, and he's a human." "It looks like I'll have to explain to Sarafal once again why I can use chakra and come up with a convincing explanation for Surzek to believe that I'm a human who can use chakra." "Naruto, I think you should tell the truth this time." "Why should I do that?" "Just think about it for a moment. You don't have anyone to help you in this world, and the few acquaintances you have are two of the 4 demon lords. You'd need someone's help or support in this world, and you know for sure that you can't do everything alone. It wouldn't hurt to have some support in case things go wrong. Besides, you could take advantage of this friendship you'll have with these two." "What kind of benefits are you talking about? I don't understand what you mean." "And here I was thinking you had matured and grown a bit, but it seems it was only momentary," he finished with a sigh. "Can we discuss it later?" "As you wish. Anyway, they're waiting for your answer." "Sigh, it's true that yokai are supposed to be able to use it, but Naruto can use it too," the redhead replied to Sarafal and then looked at Naruto for confirmation. "It's true, I can use chakra, Surzek and Sona saw me use it." "But you said you are human. How can you use chakra?" Sarafal asked. Surzek also wanted to ask that question, but thanks to Sarafal, he didn't have to. "You see, it's because I'm a..." The blonde paused for a moment, still unsure whether to tell them or not. Stop dragging this out unnecessarily and answer, Gaki. Naruto nodded slightly before continuing. The miss said at the same time. "Ninja." There was a brief silence following the blonde's statement, and the redhead asked. A ninja? He had heard of ninjas that existed in Japan but hadn't heard that they could use chakra. On the other hand, Sarafal had stars in her eyes. She had forgotten the seriousness in the room and returned to her usual personality. Are you like those dressed in black, covering their faces, using ninja stars and throwing knives? She knew about ninjas and liked them when she read about them. She didn't know why, but she liked ninjas, though nothing could beat the maho shoujo she saw and dressed up as whenever she could. But since the blonde arrived, she hadn't been able to dress up as one. Should I dress so tan as a maho shoujo again? She wondered. The blonde had never heard that ninjas had to dress in black and cover their faces. The only ones who covered their faces were the Anbu and Kakashi-sensei, who always wore that mask. He never saw him without it, something he would always consider a mystery in his life. Wait, what do you mean by dressed in black and covering our faces? Aren't ninjas supposed to be like that? No, not at all. I've never seen any of us like that. Plus, only the Anbu had their faces covered. Anbu? What's that? Naruto wanted to smack his face for saying too much, but he had said it, so there was no escaping it. The Anbu were an elite group that followed only the orders of the leader of my village, and they used masks to protect their identity. So, what kind of ninja are you? One who uses chakra, of course. Oh, so that's why you had a teacher to teach you, right? The redhead said. Yes, I had some teachers to learn how to be a ninja. Did you say you come from a village? She asked again. I think it's definite, you're an idiot, Kurama said. Relax, I have everything under control. Yes, it's a hidden village. No one who wasn't born there would ever know where it is. See, everything's under control. Yeah, I see, at least you're not so foolish. The blonde ignored the last comment and continued to listen to the questions they were asking. So have you lived your whole life there? Sarafal asked. Unlike Surzex, she knew that Naruto had lived alone. She was a bit concerned when she heard that he was alone and had no one waiting for him. Yes, I grew up in the village my whole life. He tried to finish with a smile, but not all his memories with the village were good. Even if his time there wasn't great, he would always cherish it because he made friends and got to meet the last of his family. He would always remember those moments as the closest thing to having a father. Surzex could sense the slightly depressing atmosphere and had one more question, but it didn't seem like the right time to ask it. I think we should stop with the questions, don't you think? They nodded. Anyway, I have to get back before Grafia gets even angrier with me. He said with fear in his voice. She could be very strict, but she had a limit for putting up with his antics, and that limit had been crossed. I guess this would be a good time to leave. I don't want Grafia to get even angrier than she probably already is. Surzex bid them farewell and prepared a magic circle. Saying, hopefully, we can meet again under different and more favorable circumstances. For me. He left, leaving Naruto and Sarafal alone. Hey, can I ask you a question? Sarafal said. Sure, no problem. Do you really not have any friends or family waiting for you? She asked with her head lowered and slowly. Naruto sighed, he didn't think she would ask him that. He took a small breath and replied, it's true, I haven't had family for as long as I can remember. I lived alone in an orphanage until the village leader gave me a small apartment. I considered him to be the closest thing to a grandfather, but he passed away years ago. I had several friends and sensei who taught me various things, but unfortunately, I won't be able to see them again. Why can't you see them again? It's because. If you can't answer that, I won't force you. I just wanted to ask a question, not interrogate you. The blonde nodded. He wasn't ready to tell someone, not yet. Sarafal gave him a small hug. She didn't like the expression Naruto had when he spoke. She let go of him and said, I guess we'll have to get what you wanted tomorrow, right? That's right, I was going to ask you. But I had to use it as an excuse at that moment. So, wait for me at the main entrance tomorrow, okay? She finished with a wink and left the room. Naruto blushed because of what Sarafal did. He stood there blankly until he realized what he had said. Doesn't that sound like a date? I told you, Gaki, it sounded like one. So congratulations, you're going on your first date, he said mockingly. Hey, are you listening to me? Yes, I heard you, Kurama. What do I do now? This is your thing, don't involve me in it. I'm going to sleep, so don't bother me. I guess I'll have to prepare for this date. With Sarafal. I suppose I'll have to help him get what he wanted, but I never asked him what he's looking for. She sighed for what she said. She acted as best as she could to not be nervous when talking to him. But she didn't let him finish and rush things. Now she didn't know what he wanted to do, and she had no idea where to take him. I guess I'll improvise along the way, she said decisively. What are you going to improvise? To her surprise, Sona was behind her. She didn't feel her coming. She made a mental note to pay attention to her surroundings before speaking. Oh, it's nothing, Sotan. She spoke calmly. Just things that required my attention. And what is it that required your attention? It's not very important, she said with a nervous smile. If you say so. Sona was going back to her room when she turned her head and told her sister, by the way, Mom wants to talk to you. Sarafal trembled a bit at what was said. She just nodded and headed towards her mother slowly. I just hope she's not too upset, she whispered. End of the chapter.